Hey, glory to Jesus Christ. Glory forever. Hope this finds y'all well. There we are. Welcome to my home in Hartwell, Georgia. Oh, that's weird. Okay. All right. So tonight we're going to talk about how awesome it is to be a member of a parish. Right. And this comes from Enoch, and so it's not his fault if I don't do a good job on it, though. I asked him, if he had any ideas for what we should do next. And I think, Enoch, correct me, I won't get it quite right, but you said something like, hey, Deacon John. And I think your response was something like, yeah, if you could talk about, what it is or how to be Orthodox or something like that. And like, man, I haven't thought about anything else since then. It's kind of like, that there's a Garfield. So there's a comic called Garfield, and it's about this cat that likes to eat lasagna. Hey, Carrie, God bless you. And one of the good jokes in there is somebody asked him, which leg do you lift up second when you're walking? And he loses his ability to walk, right? That's kind of like what it's felt like, right? How do you live the Orthodox life? And, the unexamined life isn't worth living. I get that, right? So that's what I've been doing for the last few days. Well, and, who says that I'm a great example of it, right? So I'll share with you some thoughts, and I look forward to your questions as well. And when I was trying to figure out how to approach it, how to live the Orthodox life, the Orthodox life centers around, our love of God, love of neighbor. And the best way that we do that, the way that we live it, and the way we're empowered to do it is through the Eucharist. Right? That really is it. So it spreads out from there. And the Eucharist is a teacher on how to live the Orthodox life. It gives us the grace to do it well. It's the blood of forgiveness when we don't, right? And so why is that the case? What does that mean? Because right now it's just an idea. Okay, Eucharist, we get it. Okay, and you might think like in mechanical terms, right? So this is the body and blood of Christ, the one who is both God and man. It is for our perfection. It's for the forgiveness of sins. He told us in the Gospel of St. John that if we eat of his body and drink of his blood, that then we'll have life. Right? That's awesome. Okay, that's all true, but that's not what I want to. That's not what I'm trying to explain tonight. If you want to understand, like if you said, "All right, hey, God bless you, Leslie. Good to see you." So, like if you ask, what's it like to be a Perkins, right? And I could tell you about our family history and all that kind of stuff. But if you want to understand who we are, come and eat with us, right? So tonight it was fun. My oldest son, he's wonderful, and he talked about he had a lot of energy, and he talked about his attitude towards some books that we both read and stuff, and it was awesome. But if you watch the dynamics and stuff, you'll get a feeling for who we are. And it's not just a demonstration of who we are, it's us learning to be who we are, right? Yeah, and the Eucharist is a meal. You get that, right? So the Eucharist is the meal, capital T, capital M. It's the meal. This is the banquet. This is the feast, right? That we read about in the Gospel. So yeah, you can tell I'm a Platonist, right? So it's the meal, and the others are not just shadows or one-offs of it. They're actually participants in that meal if you're doing things well. I'm thankful every time I eat with my family. That's a Eucharist, right? Now, in the In the parish, it's stylized, right? It's a stylized meal. But that's what it is. And watch how we behave around the Eucharist. And we've talked about this a little bit before. But here, I got a picture for you. Let's see here. See if I can work out the technology today. Is that going to go? Yeah, okay, that worked. So this is in the old world, I think. It looks like it could be probably Ukraine or Russia. That would be my guess. And it's a beautiful picture there. And in the front, we don't have these in either of our parishes, but maybe you've seen them before. We have sand in our parishes in Waynesville and Anderson that we put our prayer candles in. But if you look closely, you can see here, this is where you can go to light your candles, and there are spaces for each of them, right? And when you come in, there's a certain ritual that you do. You kind of warm up the end of it by holding it over a lit candle, and you put it in, and you say your prayer, right? And then you've got against the wall, they'll tell you there are no pews in real Orthodox churches. Well, I don't know what you call those. They're chairs. But anyways, what I want to point out is look at, just as if you came to the Perkins home, there are certain rituals that occur around the table. There's a way that we set table. There's a way that we set food. There's a cooperation to it. There's a rhythm to it. And there's a way that we start. We start with a prayer. We say the prayer together, right? And all of these things are fulfilling the command of God that we subdue, right, the wilderness. We make the crooked way straight. We are redeeming the time, as we heard in Sunday's epistle on the new calendar. And that's what's going on here. Look, they don't just queue up, right? Queuing up, that's another way that we make order out of chaos, right? And societies do it differently, and some don't do it at all. Some embrace the chaos, right? But here, what you've got is these children, and in some traditions, some parishes, the children are the first ones to go up for communion. And we can't tell here if this is the front of the line or not. But look at this. The first guy, he's like so many boys, right? Kind of almost doing exactly what he's supposed to do. But if you look at the second person, okay, look at how all of them, right? They're doing something. This is the ritual of lining up for communion. It's a family ritual, right? It reminds us who we are as we are being who we are together. And the physicality of it is that the left arm is, oh, God bless you, Leslie. Yeah, we'll pray for you. Drive home safely. Watch out for the deer, right? The hands are crossed over the chest, and looks in this picture like the left hand goes against the body first, and then the right hand goes over it, okay? And, so you can do a block, right, with your right hand. No, it's not. And there's reasons for that, right? There are very practical, logistical reasons, but it's also a piety, right? It's a piety. You don't see people do this very often, right? So when it's being done, it reinforces the solemnity of the Eucharistic experience, right? But the logistics of it is, if this boy right here, if he was just walking up to the Eucharist, right, there's no telling what he might be doing with his body and what he might be doing with his hands, right? So you give him something to do with his arms and with his hands, right? Because the thing is, that is for the priest, for the deacon, for the servers that are holding the napkin, much of their attention, especially for the servers, right? This is their job. They're holding that napkin for a reason, right? And that is because we know that this is the body and blood of Christ. This is the most graceful thing on earth. And, we bow down before it, right? And it doesn't belong on the floor. It doesn't belong on our clothes. So we make this moment as solemn as we can, and also as kind of controlled as we can. Okay? Because we are encountering God in that moment, right? And so you'll notice when you go up there, the priest doesn't say, "Hey, how's it going? Oh, it's good to see you here," Even though there is that personal connection there, right? And trust me, the priest does think it's really good to see you, and would love to get caught up, but that's not the moment to get caught up, right? There's something else going on here. And the words are prescribed, right? There's certain ritualistic words that we say. Okay, so that moment, it is so intimate, the moment where you are encountering God through the Eucharist. I think the time I've felt that most powerfully was when this is the equivalent of name dropping in Orthodox circles. So forgive me. So a couple of days after I got to help celebrate the Eucharist at the Holy Sepulchre on my birthday, we got to go to the Fanar. We got to go to Constantinople. And I was with one of my bishops, His Eminence Archbishop Daniel. And Archbishop Daniel is a bishop of the Ecumenical Patriarch, and the Patriarch offered him an audience, right, for us as pilgrims. And that was awesome, by the way. And he even asked me how my church was. He knew that we had a devastating fire at the parish I serve. Devastating fire. And yeah, I know he doesn't keep every parish in mind. He was reminded by his staff. I get that. But his staff knew he cared. And it wasn't an act when he offered his arch-pastoral care to me and to the people I serve. So, yeah, and then the next day, hey, can y'all keep it down a little bit? So, that's me being mean to my kids. So, we celebrated liturgy, and I didn't celebrate. I was celebrated, with the laity, right? But it was at the cathedral right there at the Fanar, and so we went up to take communion. The priests and the people did with the lay people, and the way that it was set up, the Ecumenical Patriarch, he's a short man, right? And so kind of have to lean down, and his servers were arced over him. Okay, you get the imagery, right? The servers representing the attending angels, right, of the Lord in the Eucharist, right? And then you've got the Patriarch, an heir to Saint Andrew, right? The Apostle Andrew, direct succession, right? He was ordained by this bishop, who was ordained by this bishop, who was ordained by this bishop. And it's in pairs, right, or threes, all the way back to Saint Andrew. And and then he says in Greek, he says the words, and it was so powerful and so intimate. And when you surround love with ritual that way, with that kind of attentiveness, and then all those rituals, they become like a vessel, and nothing can hold the love, right? It's the never-ending stream of living water. But you can hold it, you can encounter it. That's the Orthodox life. That's what we're doing every moment of our day. So, this intimacy that you experience. So you're coming up like these kids with your hands folded over, and you'll notice that my right and my left, they were messed up. Because there's a thing, right? If you do your hands like this, everyone does it one or the other way. And for me, it's difficult for me to do this. So forgive me. When you see me doing it wrong, pray for me. They are proclaiming their membership in a family when they do that, right? And they are participating in family by doing this ritual, the way they line up, the respectful way they do things. And then they are just receiving that grace of family membership in the Eucharist. And that intimacy, it doesn't just connect you with God in that moment, right? That's what we're praying about in our pre-communion prayers, and we're thanking God for after communion, during our after communion prayers. But it also connects all of us through Him and as family. And again, that's what we're doing. That's what the Orthodox life is. It is building up these connections through love and through intentionality, making those crooked ways straight, making the fertile places, the desert places fertile. When you first meet someone, that's a desert place. It's dry, right? You don't have anything in common. There's nothing growing there. But because of the time you spent with God and in community with people that you do know and have learned to communicate with, that you've learned to love and be loved, you develop a capacity to bring life to this relationship. And for so many people who, people grow up, homes, there are a lot of homes that are struggling, right? They don't have rhythms. They don't have reassuring rhythms. They have love, but they don't have those vessels, right? So the love dissipates. The love, isn't always visible. It can't weather, like, if you have the rituals, right, then it'll hold that love even when there's, stuff going on. Anyways, so there are people who are dry. And when you can encounter them and bring the Eucharist to them, as it were, then it brings grace to that moment. That's the Orthodox life. Every moment an opportunity to experience grace and communion with others. So let me expand on this a little bit. So the Eucharist, it's the center of human life. It's the center of human life, right? It is the icon and the capital S symbol. It is the way that we experience communion with God and communion with one another, right? It takes place in this home. This we sometimes call it the temple, but you'll notice, especially the OCA, they for a while they were very intentional about they wouldn't call it a temple. They would refer to it often as a home in the prayers. Even when they were talking about what was going on at church, they were very intentional about that. Don't get wrapped around the axle about that. But the Eucharist is celebrated in the context of the home parish. That is its natural place. It's like dinner at the Perkins home, right? Yes, we'll go out for dinner sometimes. Yes, we'll go to other places. And that's nice. But Perkins dinner is around the table in that room over there, except when it was in a room up in Pennsylvania, except when it was a room up in Rhode Island. But home is where that dinner table is, right? Your parish home is where you experience God and community in the Holy Eucharist. Okay? We very rarely celebrate the Eucharist elsewhere. In my last parish in Allentown, did we do that? Yes. Every summer, at the end of the summer, we would rent a pavilion at the park and we would set it up. We were like tabernacling, right? We set up our church in a pavilion, right? And beautiful. In Woonsocket, during the COVID times, they set up a tent and they tabernacled next to the church out in the open field for months, right? Because it was safer for them. Okay, so we do it, and one of my favorite things is the tabernacle at nursing homes. Yep. So you go there, and that becomes, the home. Whatever table, you adapt and you put that antiments on. Antiments is a thing that you need in order to celebrate the Eucharist. That becomes that, I'm not going to call it a dinner table, but the altar, right? And it's dostojna, so that's a word in Slavonic that means it's fitting. There's something fitting to having the Eucharist there in that home place. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's so true. This sense of place that we have about our home parish is really deeply rooted, and there's a theology behind it. And maybe I'll get Father Harry to talk with me about it for y'all for one of the podcasts. But we don't, like, for instance, with weddings are another part of this communal celebration, right? So in America, this goes really against the grain. People want to have destination weddings, or they have an idea the perfect wedding will be at this, and there in the Asheville area, man, everybody with a barn now, has a venue, right? And that happens down here in upstate South Carolina and the foothills of the Appalachians. Did you hear what I just said, Deacon John? But for us, we always celebrate our weddings in the church. It is a community event, and it's held at the community's home, which is there where we celebrate the Eucharist. You have the reception wherever you want, but that's where you get married. And funerals. Hey, funerals are another, I don't know, is celebration the right word? It's a celebration of community. It's part of the, it's part of this sense of home, is having that person there where they have been there, there's for the center of their life. And it's tough on Orthodox Christians when the family decides not to have the funeral in the church, to have it in the funeral home instead. And they have their reasons. It's without judgment. I'm just telling you the truth. It's very difficult. Not very difficult. It's harder. It is more dostojna. It is more fitting. And Orthodox Christians feel that when these things take place in the parish. Perhaps it's less convenient. Okay, fine. I don't know. We'll make it as convenient as possible. The acoustics are better. This is dark humor. But the parish is the center of the home. And one of the things that you do, like, some of y'all are young, right? And you're gonna be falling in love, right? That's wonderful and fantastic. One of the things that you do when you fall in love with somebody is eventually you bring them to your home, right? And you go to their home, right? And that's how you it's not just a formality of, oh, I've got to check this box. No, because the home is where they are kind of most themselves, or it's certainly a big part of them. When you're a young person, you're trying to establish your identity apart from the home, right? And that's cool. And there's all kinds of dynamics that can be healthy. But one of the things that you should do when you have friends, and certainly when you have someone you're courting, is bring them to church, right? So they can see who you are when you're at home. And we've talked before about how this is another wonderful thing about the Eucharist is it's the place where you can be vulnerable. You can let down your guard. You don't have to worry that anybody's going to, say something off or push somebody's buttons or something. I mean, there are ways we can still push each other's buttons in the Divine Liturgy, but the words are perfect. And the only part that's not scripted perfectly is the homily, right? So maybe you put your filters up a little bit during the homily. I get that. But what a wonderful thing to have a place where you can go and you walk in the door and your blood pressure goes down. The stress that, from all of the exercises in social mathematics that you have to do out there in the world just disappear, right? When you walk into the church. And yeah, I know everything's a work in progress, but certainly once that Divine Liturgy starts, right? And then because that's the center of our life, it informs everything else. We had an interesting thing happen on, I'm going to tell some, I know in Anderson we had, as I was leaving, some people started talking politics, right? Which is always dangerous. Oh my goodness. But because they had just been through the Divine Liturgy, it didn't matter if they disagreed on politics, right? Because they shared the thing that was deeper, right? And this is, by the way, if you want to contrast, compare that sense of peace and relaxation and community connection, vulnerability that's rewarded with warmth rather than manipulation. Compare that perfect setting with what you experience in even church fora on the internet, right? Where there is a lot of social calculation that's going on. And it's just missing that sense of place, that sense of home. Okay? Because what you're then encountering is you're just encountering someone and your only context is the ideas that they're giving you, right? And so talk about objectifying somebody. It's very difficult to objectify somebody that you've just shared a meal with. It's even harder with somebody that you just shared the Eucharist with. Okay? So, man, find a parish that you love. The two that I serve, that y'all right now that are listening are part of, these are wonderful places to be home at, right? But we need this. We need a place where we can both be ourselves and learn to be ourselves. And that's what the parish is. And so then the way that we do love, the way that we do friendship, the way that we do respect, the way that we do intentionality, these are patterns that we then take and allow them to inform and be part of our relationships just everywhere. And it's a little bit different because when you go out, you haven't just been through the Eucharist with these other people, but there are other things that work. And this is a whole different talk, right, about how to do relations with people who, may try to manipulate you and stuff. But over time, as you learn to do you well through the Eucharist, through the Divine Liturgy, through parish life, you lose the handles. These handles we have all of ourselves that people can grab and just turn us, around to whichever way, the ones that they use to manipulate us. They just disappear, right? So, if we have one of the people listening right now is I'm going to get this wrong, a kung fu master. Is that right? I'm using the wrong words, but I bet you, if I tried to grab onto him or tried to manipulate him physically, he could, without losing any of his peace, manage not to be manipulated. I can pretty much guarantee you that, right? Spiritually, this is what we are learning to do, right? Because what are you going to do? How are you going to manipulate me? What are you going to do? What are you going to tell God about me? I'm completely open before God. You're gonna tell these people that I live with every day in the parish, something about me. They know me better than I know myself in some ways, right? And they love me, so I'm not worried. So it takes away this anxiety, this social anxiety, over time. So Chase, I don't know if I did a very good job on that, but when I think about what I love about being Christian, what I love about being Orthodox, what I love about being human, it is that I love the connection, the fellowship that I share with God and with everybody else. I'm including the stranger. With the grace of God, even with my enemies, right? That kind of life is bearable. Not just bearable, it's actually enjoyable, right? It has, I'm not immune from stress, but it changes things when you allow that pattern to define your entire life, okay? And I mentioned it on Sunday, the way St. Seraphim put it is, if you acquire the Holy Spirit, if you learn to live this way, those around you will get the same thing, right? We're making those crooked ways straight. Yeah, thanks. So I get a thumbs up. Thanks, Enoch. Yeah, and you know what? Enoch really is Chase's name. He is that's Charles Enoch III, right? So, awesome. All right, so that's 30 minutes. What do you got for me? Oh, and I got a little something while I'm waiting for your questions. Deacon John, I started making up the syllabus for the class that I'm teaching at seminary on patristics, and you are going to love it. Let's see here. I'm waiting for questions for y'all, so I'm just going to... Oh, look. That's weird. It just shows whatever I pull up. All right, so I am going to... So I'm teaching a distance learning class next semester on patristics. And it is going to be so awesome. Of course, it's not in the list of most recent files in Word. That's okay. We're going to read some really nice stuff. And y'all can take it, by the way, if you're listening. It's at St. Sophia Seminary. And you will be, regardless of whether you take a class or not, you will indirectly be taking the class, because I am a bear of very little brain. And so the homilies and things that you hear are informed by the things that I am going through, right? The things that I'm reading, the things that I'm meditating on, things that I'm studying. Now, and less so in my political science classes, a little bit more so in my special ed classes, but a lot more in the stuff I'm teaching in seminary. And by the way, I think that's a good thing. I encourage all priests to do continual learning, so that they're always bringing. I don't want to say new ideas. They're presenting old ideas in fresh ways. There we go. So still no questions? Oh, y'all are waiting with bated breath to hear what Deacon John and Reader Aiden, another member of the Waynesville Parish, is, Lord willing, going to take this class. So we're going to read St. Dionysius, and he's awesome. So we're going to read the divine names, the celestial hierarchy, and the ecclesiastical hierarchy. And that sounds like 3 books, but they're really like 3 chapters. They're pretty short. And wow, so powerful. We're going to read St. Gregory of Nyssa. We're going to read his life of Moses. And if you watch Jonathan Pajot, he's got a video on the life of Moses where he breaks it down symbolically, of course. But this is a wonderful, I don't know if introduction, even introduction, using the life of Moses as a way to understand the hesychastic journey, or the journey of theosis, learning how to pray. And we're going to read St. Maximus the Confessor. And we're going to, a couple of things by him, a compilation called On the Cosmic Mystery of Jesus Christ, and then also on the ecclesiastical mystagogy. That sounds scary, but it's not. St. John do you have any thoughts? Oh, here we go. Okay, so we got questions. So, and there's other stuff too. So it's going to be awesome. So, Enoch has a question. Do you have any thoughts as to how our guardian angels participate in our parish life? Ooh, wow, great question. Yeah, so I've never had any visions of this. I know that they are there just as... So, in Scripture, it says, don't you know that their angels are continually interceding before them before God, right? So, I guess angels experience space and or time differently than we do. Of course they do, right? Now think of this. It is every angel's first calling. Every soldier is an infantryman first, right? Okay, bad analogy. That doesn't mean anything to you. Every angel is glorifying God first, and then they have these additional duties as assigned, right? And guardian angel, if you're reading St. Dionysius, he breaks down those 9 orders of angels. And as you know, the one at the bottom is angel. And among those we have, according to St. Dionysius, those are not just the guardian angels, but also the angels of the nations, right? And he would say anyways, that's a different class. So those angels are glorifying God with us, right? This is, it's so fitting, right? That while most of the time the angel of our guardian angels are, I guess, experiencing God at the same time that they are experiencing us. But think about what we put our guardian angels through. I love the prayer in the morning prayers that says, you're owning up to the fact that you're continually shaming your guardian angel, right? Taking ownership of that. And but this is the time when your guardian angel is there with you and everything is fit and proper, right? Because you are behaving well and your angel is glorifying God and loving you at the same time. And yeah, so it's wonderful. So I don't know, what they do or anything like that. We have descriptions in the Divine Liturgy of things that some angels are doing about, how we describe them going out and doing the entrances with us, right? If you read the priest parts in Anderson, you don't just read the priest parts, you hear the priest parts because almost all of them are said out loud. So notice that, right? Pay attention look for all the angel descriptions, right? We don't tell the angels what to do, but we recognize that they are doing things. So, and otherwise in parish life, So we all have guardian angels, right? I don't know much about this, but, they're in a community as well, right? And we have we have patrons, right? So in Anderson, it's the Parish of Christ the Savior, but our patron is St. Raphael of Brooklyn, right? So he serves as an angel for that parish. And I don't mean that he is turned into one of the celestials, right? No, I don't mean that. What I mean, as you know, you well know, he has taken a place at the Divine Council, right? And so he has the capacity to serve as guardian to communities, right? So he's noetically worshiping with us. I don't know exactly how it works. And people will say, well, yeah, but there are other St. Raphael parishes too. Yeah, well, think about how busy St. Nicholas is. Yeah. No, I'm not being sarcastic. They got it. They got it. Like I said, time, space, not working the same way, not experienced the same way. So don't know exactly how that works. So with the guardian angels, just know, yeah, they're there. They're there with you. And it's glorious. Yeah. Because what you've got in the Divine Liturgy, so there's another aspect of that home, right? It's heaven and earth, the barriers broken down during that Divine Liturgy. So the guardian angel is at both places at once and doesn't have to go as far or something like that, right? Because of what happens during the Divine Liturgy. It's completely awesome. The servers are representing the angels. So we're reminded of their presence by the presence of the servers. So we have a subdeacon in Anderson, we have a subdeacon in Waynesville, and the way that they wear their stole is kind of evocative of wings, and the way that they minister, they are ministering servants. They are ministering angels, as it were. And if you look at the altar, there are angel plates. They're not called plates. They're angel things on poles right there behind the altar. And they get carried in processions and stuff. And there's a tradition in the tradition I'm from, where the subdeacon or the deacon takes that angel and during the anaphora waves it over the altar. And it's a reminder of the continual presence of angels proclaiming the glory of God. And that's what they're doing along with us. There's a prayer during Matins that captures this. This prayer, it comes at the end of the canon in Matins or Orthros, and the translation in the Antiochian is a little bit different than it is in the Ukrainian prayer book. So it says, "All the angels proclaim your glory, and we send up glory." Right? So the angels and humans are joining together to proclaim the glory of God. Okay, so let's see. Chase says, this isn't really something I think we know much about. Yeah, you're right. But the presence of Christ's body and blood on earth and in heaven is interesting. Yeah, who knows how the angels experience that in the liturgy? Exactly. Who knows, right? But I'm going to be presumptuous and say it's awe. They experience with awe. AWE, awe. Yeah, just complete awe. And remember, the angels are in. They're in on this plan for God becoming what is required for us to join them on the Divine Council, to join them, in the kingdom. The ones who weren't up for that, they left. These are all in. So when they, are they affected by the sacrifice? Yes, they're, incredibly difficult, right? But you can read meditations on their hymns that talk about what it was like when the angels saw God bringing his body back up to heaven, at the ascension, right? Bringing a human body up, right? They're all in. They're celebrating this. They're celebrating the presence of God. They're celebrating the purpose of it, the forgiveness of our sins, and so on. Okay, so great questions. Yeah, if you want to get me going, you can always ask about angels. You can ask about ghosts. You can ask about aliens. I always enjoy spending evenings with y'all. I regret that it's not in person, but hey, you get to come to my home. And now let's go get a little something to drink, a little snack. Well, y'all, until next time, Godspeed.